Guys, yo, Cubs, is my phone that side? I don't know why I'm overthinking about it.
Hello.
Greetings, people. Welcome to another episode of Anything and Everything in Between.
Episode 2.
And what are we going to talk about today? Anything. And maybe we'll find everything in between. Let's go. Before we get into today's discussion, let's just make some shout outs, some guys that are making it possible.
The first one goes to Benji.
Anton Graphics.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Please give him his man, and then many mistakes. Sorry.
You did what? You made the many mistakes. We're not going to cut this out. She made the many mistakes. But Benji of Anton Graphics did the graphics, the intro.
Yes.
Man, give him your money.
Yeah.
We're going to put his contact information in the description. Support the guy. He makes good work. He actually does he's done a lot of graphics for the Collective UG. So if you like the art you're seeing and you like to have some of that art happening for you, reach out to Benji with Anton Graphics and give him your money.
Yeah.
Come on.
The other goes to Naj, who made the instrumental, the track.
Eric Najuna. I don't know if he wants your money, but Naj, if you want people to give you your money, just say what's up in the comment section, and we shall share your information as well.
Yes, and please follow, subscribe to this Stories channel, the Collective UG, so that you don't miss out
on anything. And you can also support the mission of the Collective UG. The Collective UG exists to help young people find purpose in God for life on earth. And everything we do is made possible by partnerships, friends, and people who just contribute financially to it. So ways that you can donate are in the description as well. Promise, how can a young person who's watching this that wants to be involved in what the Collective UG does, how can that person get connected?
So this weekend, the 20th of July, we're having Connect. You're welcome. When you come, you'll sign up so that you can join a team, and that's how you'll be able to join the Collective.
Just show up. This weekend, we'll be at Nakasero Primary School.
Yes.
Connect. We start at 5 p.m.
Yes.
All you have to do is show up. Come as you are. And the rest happens. All right, let's get into it. Who are you? How would you describe yourself?
So when you asked me this question, I was confused between what I want to be and who I really am. I don't know if that's right, but yeah. Okay, I'm confusing myself, but I'm a child of God, and that's like the default answer for a Christian.
Yeah. So you go somewhere, they give you a microphone, and they say, introduce yourself. How would you do that? What would you say?
Okay. I would say my name is Promise Masembe. In my Form 6 vacation, and 19 years old. Will I say my age? Maybe.
Okay, so we have your name, your age, your academic status.
Yeah.
But I guess that's how people introduce themselves.
Yes.
It's interesting. I like asking people, especially people who, after campus, have gone into are forging their own way in a non-specific profession.
Yeah.
So they're forgers. Hustlers. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know that you're the type of person I'm talking about, Promise called you a hustler. But
okay.
But just the different types of people.
Yeah.
And every time they introduce themselves, they'll always routinely go back to introducing themselves based on what they finished studying.
Yeah.
Hi, Christine, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm in communications. Well, she does communicate, but she's more of a pastor, isn't it?
Yeah.
There it is. I've said it on the podcast. So everybody start calling Mr. and Mrs. Kawali, Mr. and Mrs. Pastor. But sounds so funny. But it's that type of thing. What about like preferences? How much of your identity is defined by your preferences?
First, repeat that question.
For example, there are people who will introduce themselves based on their food restrictions. Hi, my name is Nell. I'm a vegan. Right?
Yeah.
More increasingly in your day, there are those who feel like their identity is defined by their gender. And that has interestingly become a hot topic. I'll leave it there because I don't want people to come for me. I'm not ready for all that smoke.
True.
Not that I'm confused about what I think, but that smoke, we shall save it for season 2. But who are you? Think of identity. If you are in a small group conversation with someone and now you're talking about identity, what would be your contribution to the question of identity? What defines a person?
I think it's like God. He created you and He defined you there and then. So whether you change whatever you want to change, still
Say that
remains.
again. God created you and He defined you.
Yes.
So whether you change,
your definition of yourself, it doesn't change a thing because your Creator made you and defined you.
how does a person who is 24 years old, has finished campus, and they're just late in life at being successful and rich? Wow. How does that person start trying to connect with that definition of identity, what you've just said?
Wow. It's a hard question.
What makes it hard?
The answer.
The answer makes it hard.
Yeah.
You're the marking guide now. So how can the
Okay.
question-
I think the word of God, like there is a verse in the Bible that says, I think it's 1 Peter chapter 2 verse something, that talks of that you're a holy nation, you're a chosen people, you are a royal priesthood, you're a precious possession.
I'll just read it because I think if you're going to reference scripture, it's always good to
read it.
to quote it so that we don't misrepresent what God is saying. Okay, 2 Peter, you said?
Yeah,
No, it's
First Peter.
1 Peter chapter number 2, verse 9. Okay, said, you are not like that, for you are a chosen people, you're royal priests, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for He called you out of the darkness into His wonderful light. Okay, so finish that thought. What were you trying to say?
What was I trying to say?
What were
I
you
think
trying-
I lost it. But yeah, this is the is I feel like for a Christian, like this is how you should identify yourself. I'm a chosen nation.
a
I'm
whole
a
nation,
royal-
your whole country.
Well,
Meet the country of promise.
yeah.
What's the capital city
I
of
don't know.
promise?
I don't know why why they call it a nation, but probably was talking about nation. Yeah, but I'm a chosen person. A royal priesthood, a royal priest, God's special possession. Yeah, and I feel like when you walk with that in your everyday life, like when you keep, when you keep it. I don't know what to say.
You have a thought. Walk through it. Come on. When you keep it,
Okay, when you keep saying that you're believing it, that this is what God says I am, then you would actually live it out.
there's a better chance of. Yeah, I think Peter starts chapter 2 by saying, "Get rid of evil behavior. Be done with deceit, hypocrisy, jealousy, unkind speech. Like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk so that you will grow into a full experience of salvation." cry out for this nourishment. Now that you have had a taste of the Lord's kindness.
Yeah.
So, it is natural to crave certain things.
Yes.
It is natural to respond to the things around you a certain type of way. And then when you're called out on it, hey, Promise, why did you do that?
Yeah.
If you are a unrepentant person, you defend yourself. You explain yourself. And chances are that somewhere within your defense of why you responded to the things around you the way you did is because this is who I am.
Yeah.
These are my preferences.
Yeah.
But also this is who I am. Now you're defending
Yeah.
a certain type of your identity.
Yeah.
Or a person you meet like, man, that guy is so mean. He doesn't talk nicely to people. Now that's who he is, okay? He's just a tough guy and you've misunderstood him.
Yeah.
Which I guess there is a little bit of truth in that. Personalities could be a certain type of way. But because you have a natural instinct and a natural behavior towards certain things,
Yes.
you can't be defined by your natural behavior towards things because it eliminates from you the opportunity to grow. Your natural response to things is like your first
Default
response.
setting.
But then you have the opportunity to evaluate what you're doing and the opportunity it gives you to move forward, move backwards, or stay exactly where you are,
Yeah.
which to me is the same as dying, flatlining. You've stayed in the same place. But if you want to grow, anybody that wants to grow and grow in productivity and grow in life has to adopt the culture of change, to realize that everything that is natural to me can change and become something hopefully better so that I can grow and be more useful in life, right? And I think that's where the premise of Peter in this verse that you referenced comes from. Because he says, like, look, get rid of all of this stuff. Be done with deceit, hypocrisy, jealousy. All of these are like natural responses.
Yeah.
Promise, who broke the window to the bedroom?
Not me.
It wasn't you.
Yeah.
It was you. That's the natural response.
Yeah.
When you're in danger, to make the story more favorable, to protect you, to preserve you. Yeah. Deceit. Or jealousy. It's not hard to see someone living their best life on Instagram and feel jealous. It's a very natural response.
Yeah.
We may not call it jealousy, we may just call it, it's just content, but there's a bit of jealousy in there.
Yeah.
And that jealousy turns into ambition. Like your ambition is now being defined by someone else's success more than your ambition being defined by your purpose or your sense of vision and meaning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your jealousy could start defining your career goals.
Yeah. Because you're jealous of someone.
Because you've seen someone
you want
else.
to.
Yeah, maybe jealousy is a bit of an aggressive word. Let us call it. What's the correct word? What is it? To covet, eh? What is the act of coveting called? Being covetous? Is that an English word? I don't trust what that guy said. I'm going to leave it there. To covet. Yeah. I think covetous is a real word. If it's not, then it's going to start becoming a real word today. Covetous. Anyway. Or he also talks about unkind speech, which is like the mantra of Twitter, X.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go. I'm never on X or Twitter. Yeah. But I do go there every time the electricity is off. And I don't remember ever using kind words while asking Umeme why the electricity is off. I don't remember being hurtful with my words.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also don't remember being
Being
like,
kind.
I hope this tweet finds you in good health. Could you kindly inform us on the reason why the power is out? Regards. Sincerely looking forward to your. No, it's kind of like, but Gray, where's the power off, man? When is it
been 2
coming
days.
back? It's been up for 5 days.
Yeah.
Nobody talks like that. Especially when you feel entitled to a certain service. Anyway, but he says, instead, like newborn babies, to crave pure spiritual milk, so that you'll grow into a full experience of salvation. Cry out for this nourishment now that you have tasted the Lord's kindness. If there is something that God has shown himself to be, to me, is he is kind. Is that he's so kind to allow me to participate in his really big plan for the world. Because who am I? I am a hypocrite. I lie a lot. Praise God. But God has been kind to me. He's allowed me. And he's saying, look, you've tasted the Lord's kindness. Now you need to cry out for this kind of nourishment. It is the kind of nourishment. This is like an opportunity for God to feed you.
Yeah.
And the result of his nourishment is you become a different person. You used to be mean, and now you're not easily offended. You become a new person. And I think in there is an identity that's being formed.
Yeah.
Which then, what you were talking about in verse 9, saying, look, you're not like that. You're a chosen person. Royal priests. Like, we have an opportunity to, as we are being changed by God, to become people that are used by God to represent him to others and invite them to know him. That is the priesthood, is you're inviting people into an interaction with God, who is kind, but he also doesn't want to leave you the way you are.
Yeah.
Speaking of identity, so how would you define that word, purpose?
Purpose.
And how different is it from identity?
Identity. Wow. Purpose. I think purpose is more of
I just want to take this opportunity to appreciate how it is impossible for Promise to say the word purpose without loading accent balance. I love it so much.
Purpose.
No. Bring it back. Bring it back. It was
It's
nice.
good.
It was a good flavor.
It's good.
So what is purpose?
Purpose is
There you go. Came back quickly. And
Okay.
and what? Anyway, sorry.
all right. I think purpose is what you're created to do.
Come on.
And then purpose does not only benefit you, like it's not, if your purpose in life is to help yourself, then I don't think that's a good purpose. But identity is more of personal, like who you are, yourself. And then purpose is what you are supposed to accomplish in life for others.
What you could do.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that a person's identity or a person's awareness of their identity is going to influence or contribute the extent to which they're able to find purpose. Like the more you define yourself, the more you have an appreciation for what you can contribute, which I think is interesting. Because Promise, you're working on some songs. Promise is going to give us new music soon. Should we set a date now and put that pressure on you? And people will come looking for you. But the extent to which you will commit to... Wait, you already have some music on Spotify. What am I saying? Courtesy of The Sandbox. Check out The Sandbox on Spotify.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff there. Okay. Sandbox guys, that was a free advertisement. So feel free to send some support our way.
Yeah.
This podcast, anything and everything in between.
In between.
Unsullied by sponsorships. I digress too much.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? Purpose. So if you realize within your awareness of who you are that you are able to sing beautifully, then you are more able to position yourself to serve a musical purpose because you realize that you've got something to give.
Yeah.
Right? It's very hard for a person who doesn't rate their ability to sing to go to a studio and be invested in creating music.
Yeah.
Because they don't think they've got it. And I know people like that. Some of the nicest singers you'll ever hear, but you may never hear music for them because in their definition of themselves, they can't.
They don't check themselves.
They don't see it. But I had a recent thought that I want to drop here, then I'll leave it there, about purpose. Like in your lifetime, Promise, who is a certain number of years old, shall leave that there as well. There are dreams you've had.
Yeah.
There are dreams which you've left behind. You no longer have them.
Yeah.
And maybe you have new dreams for the future. Right? What dreams do you have right now?
Dreams. Okay, there have been quite many, but
Give us the executive summary.
Okay, so I want to become. I'm not yet there in my head.
Yeah, that's why it's
Yeah.
a dream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to become?
I want to become like a worship artist, like a worshiper, not just a gospel artist. Yeah, but a person who leads people to worship God.
Okay.
Yeah. And I share more.
Sure.
I want to be a baker.
A baker.
Yes.
Make some nice pastries
Yes.
and cakes.
Yes.
Friends, if you want to do what? To get a cake. Promise is making
Yeah.
cakes. Check this out. In your lifetime, let us say God is really kind to you and gives you a nicely long life.
Yeah.
How long is a nicely long life? 100 years?
Yeah, 100.
Okay, let's go with
90 to
100 years. 90 to 100 years. 90 to 100 years, you've written songs, you've made cakes. The story of the purpose you've served
Yeah.
will remain mysterious
Yeah.
to everyone who has been alive with you. But the way people have experienced you would be like different snippets of that story, okay? So like your parents, your dad has his experience of your purpose, which he has observed from when you were a baby to where you are now and for as long as you'll be together. Your siblings have their own experience of that. Your friends at school have their own experience of that. Your friends out of school have their own experience of that. Their friends you're yet to make
Yeah.
who will have their own experience of that. I've known you for how long? Not that long. So there's a huge chunk of my life which you have not experienced. But there are other people who have, and so they have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when all is said and done, the story of your life, what purpose did it serve, remains mysterious. Because
Yeah.
depending on who you talk to,
Yeah.
they will have their own observations and experiences of you. You're like several different people. You're one life.
Yes.
But the thing that fascinates me is that there is one who stays always present from forever to forever.
Yeah.
From forever as far back as forever can go to forever as far back as forever can go.
Yes.
And so from his perspective, God's perspective, it's not ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because he knows you and every context of your existence with each person that your context exists in. But he also knows you, the way you exist inside your head, which most people never get to experience. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And then he also knows you in your response to him and your refusal of him. You know, like all of that. He has it all packaged down. And because of his eternal nature, because of God's eternal nature, it is only like a second of like his huge database of information.
Yeah.
It is tiny. And so, from his perspective, purpose is defined. And I think that as people, especially people who have said, you know what, I'm going to follow God who's kind, I'm going to follow Jesus, and he's going to give me purpose, he's going to define me. I'll be obedient to him. There is a purpose that we find being tethered to what he is doing. Are you still with me?
Yeah.
I've used many words. You know what it means to be tethered, like tied to, like you're attached. So being attached to what he's doing, there's a purpose that is defined there. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:11 that God has made everything beautiful in its time.
Yeah.
And he has put eternity, a divine sense of purpose in the hearts of men. Then he says, yet nobody knows what he's doing from beginning to end, what we've just been talking about. So you think of a character like Joseph. In the Bible, what was his purpose in life? What would you say his purpose was? We know his dreams. He dreamt of being a leader.
Yeah.
And sometimes it came off in a way that offended his brothers, offended his parents, when he kept saying that he dreamt, and in his dreams he saw them bowing down to him. It offended them so much that they wanted to what?
To
kill him. But you've read the story from 17-year-old Joseph who was dreaming to the 38-year-old Joseph who became prime minister in Egypt. What would you say his purpose was, in your opinion?
I think his purpose was to save his family from drought, famine. Yeah. Well, I think it's bigger than that.
That's definitely one perspective, because when his brothers eventually come and they go through the drama of the dramatic story of how he revealed himself to them, first being a bit vengeful and then eventually coming out and revealing himself, he does make that phrase. He says, what you guys intended for evil, God intended for good. And I think for him in that moment, he does see that as purpose being fulfilled, right? But there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger story.
Yeah.
There is the God story that is running from the beginning of the Bible to the end. Within that giant God story, before Joseph there is his father Jacob, and Jacob's father Isaac, and Abraham. On one of those nights, when God and Abraham are having their evening walks and talks, God tells Abraham that your descendants will go to a foreign country, Egypt, where they will multiply, and then they will become slaves. And then after 400 years, I will rescue them from there and bring them back to the land. So when you think about Joseph in the God story, you can say that Joseph's purpose was to take Israel to Egypt.
Yeah. Take them into slavery.
Well,
Small.
I don't know about taking them into slavery, but that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And God's story is still being written. And Joseph, in his personal experience of God, he gets to stay close with God. He gets to choose not to dishonor God. And it is in his obedience to God and his honoring of God, even when he's accused and he's going through all of that character development, that he remains tethered to the story of God, which story is going somewhere. It doesn't end in their slavery in Egypt or in their wilderness
Yeah.
or in their settling in the land of Canaan, or like the story continues. And throughout that story, people are making choices to be tethered with God or to be enemies of
Apart.
God. But through it all, regardless of the choices people are making, God is trying to stay true to his own promise and fulfill a certain type of purpose in our world, which is to redeem us, to rescue us, so that he can be with us. And so I'm saying that even now, like however you choose to define yourself, however I choose to define myself, in all of my wildest imagination of what's happening, I can't see what God is doing from beginning to end. That's Ecclesiastes 3. He's saying you can't see what God is doing from the beginning to the end. But he's going to make everything beautiful
In its own time.
in its own time. In Joseph's story, we see God fulfilling some form of beauty as he's reconciled with his family, as he brings nourishment to Egypt and all the neighboring nations by having the wisdom to prepare for what was going to come. In his leadership, there's a beauty in there.
Yeah.
But the purpose is not limited to that. He's part of a much bigger story.
Scope.
And in his lifetime, he only gets to see a really tiny fraction of it.
Yeah.
Very relevant because it was God's story. In his lifetime, there are many other people who fill the earth, whose stories we never get to know.
Yeah.
I can't say why, but for certain, if I'm playing a role in God's story, God chooses which story is remembered, which story is forgotten. But purpose is fulfilled. And I think it's wonderful. It is incredible to live a purpose that is tethered to God's story. Because God's story is the everlasting story. It is the one that matters forever.
Yep.
Anyway, who are you?
Wow.
What are you going to do in this life? We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Subscribe, ask questions, define it. What is purpose?
Yeah.
What is your identity? How do you introduce yourself? Let's continue the conversation in the chat. If you're on YouTube, I don't know how people chat on Spotify. Does that feature even exist? I don't know. If you're listening to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what? Let's move to YouTube where there's a chat room and we can find ourselves there. Anyway, let's go.